Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be the Great Depression, causes of Great Depression activity. I will walk you through it and go through it with you a little bit so that way you guys understand what exactly you're asked to do. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the directions first. So read through this text below in this text box once or twice, then annotate the text in order to receive full credit for this assignment. So you have to annotate this full text. Then fill out the text boxes below the reading as well as in order to receive full credit. So you need to not only annotate this text right here, but you also need to fill in the text boxes below it. You can use the reading and graph that is below, and you can refer back to these if you need it for the questions and how to answer them. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down the text that you'll annotate. This right here says, using the reading above to organize the terms listed below in the appropriate boxes provided. You may write terms in both boxes if they apply. So I'll go ahead and we'll do the first one together so you guys understand what exactly you need to do and what that looks like. So this first paragraph, during the 1920s, America's economy began to grow very quickly. This economic growth was the result of many things. First, the destruction of European factories after World War I meant that European nations had to buy American goods. This increased the demand for American goods until the mid-1920s, when Europeans rebuilt their factories and they no longer needed to purchase things from the United States. So for that one, you can go ahead and annotate whether that's highlighting. You can choose a certain highlighter color. We'll just choose a lighter one now for this example. So you're going to highlight a few things that stick out. So from this first one, I'm going to highlight 1920s because I realized that's the time period that we're talking about, and I think that's pretty important. And then going through it again, this economic growth was the result of many things. First, the destruction of European factories. Well, I think that is pretty important after World War I because that's the reason all this is happening. Meant that European nations had to buy American goods. Again, I think buy American goods is very important reading this first part of the text. This increased the demand for American goods until the mid-1920s. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all that as well because I think that's very, very important. It's talking about the increase of demand, where that's coming from, and how long that lasted. Next part, when Europeans rebuilt their factories. So I'm going to go ahead and underline rebuilt factories. And they no longer needed to purchase things from the United States. So that's what you can do for annotation. You can add highlights like that. And preferably, you guys will also add some type of comment or text box to the side stating why you think that's important or whatever you may need. But annotate this whole entire text box right here as best as you can. So scrolling down, so the term we just did, European demand for American goods in that first paragraph. And then from there, you decide whether or not that's an economic growth or economic collapse using the PowerPoint and video that was recorded by me as well, talking about economic growth and economic collapse. Economic growth means the economy was great, lots of spending, lots of buying. Economic collapse means that it was bad, not a lot of spending, not a lot of buying. Great Depression times fall within economic collapse, and the Roaring 20s fall within the economic growth. So for this one, looking back at it, after reading through it, European nations were buying American goods. This increased the demand for American goods until the 1920s, meaning Europeans were buying lots of American products, which means it's going to be economic growth. So I'm going to go ahead and you can copy, paste, rewrite, whatever's easier. Down here in economic growth, I'll go ahead and paste that. For economic growth, European demand for American goods. Now, if you believe that also falls within both, because you could think that the Europeans, since they stopped in the 1920s, they rebuilt their factories, that contributed also to the economic collapse. You can go ahead and add any of these terms if you think that they apply to both columns or both of these sections. Go ahead and feel free to put them in both. Some of them aren't, some of them are. That will be up to you to decide based on how well you read the text and annotate it. That will help you a lot. So moving down, this is the GMP per capita from 1919 to 1930. So the directions for this is using the graph above, as well as the terms from the boxes of economic growth and economic collapse above. So using this chart, graph, and this chart with the terms, complete the questions provided below. Make sure to explain why you are using the term in the causes section of the questions to receive full credit. So again, these are the two key vocabulary terms, GMP, loose credit, that we went over in the Google Slides. If you need them again, they're right here posted. So using the graph above, what happened to the GMP of the United States from 1921 to 1929? That's where you'll go ahead and use this graph to answer that question, looking at 1921 to 1929. What happened within this span right here? And you need to explain why in there as well. So why you are using the term in the cause of the section. Using the graph above, what happened to the GMP of the United States from 1921 to 1930? Again, you'll come back up to this graph right here. Look at what happened from 1929 to 1930. What happened right here? And go ahead and write your answer there. So using your thinking map from the questions above to identify one cause for this trend in the space provided below, analyze how you selected your cause created to this trend. So this right here, when it says cause, this is where you're going to add one of the terms that you used up here. You'll use one of those. So let's say you use European demand for American goods. You'll come down, you'll write European demand for American goods right here in the cause. And then the analyzation of how the cause written above resulted to the trend from 1921 to 1929. So this is where you'll go ahead and write why you chose European demand for American goods, if that's what you choose. Little explanation, a couple sentences there for us to understand that you got what we're looking for. So same thing down here, again, cause that you'll get from the chart up here that you've already used. You'll choose another one, put it down here in the causes right here. You'll write that term there, and then analyzation of how the cause written above resulted in the trend from 1929 to 1930, and you'll write a few sentences down here in that text box. So that's all that we're asking from you guys. Please feel free to ask questions if you guys do not understand what you're asked to do, or if you have any clarifying questions that you need answered, feel free to email, hop on Zoom with Mr. Polano or I, or if you're watching this while we're back in person, please come up and ask us if you need help on any of this. Thank you guys so much, and good luck.